1,000 times.
All right, and we're back with day 31 of Survivor 46 and 46. We just finished watching Survivor Cambodia, Second Chances. Jeremy just won, swept the jury. Not a perfect game because he had a couple votes negated during the no votes tribal, and we're going to talk all about that. We have two guests today. Right now, we are just joined by Mark, who is making his return from the Nicaragua podcast about 9 days ago? 9 days ago? 10 days ago. It'll be 10 days ago.
It was a Saturday. I remember that because I worked during the day, and then I was waiting for you to finish because that season's harder to watch than this one.
Yeah. And I would say that today was not hard at all. Today was a very swift rewatch. I knocked out the premiere last night, and I woke up and I was watched episode 2 to the finale this morning around 8 a.m. And, I for my money, so last time I did this, Cambodia actually dropped in my list. Like, it stayed in the top 5, but like it dropped from number 2 to like number 4 or 5 or something.
Which is still pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I would say that this time it probably raised back up because I wasn't trying to think of it as critically as I was last time. And we're going to touch on why, like, my qualms with the season and why it doesn't matter to me this time. But Mark, what were your first thoughts when you first watched this season, and has your opinion on the season changed throughout the season or throughout the years?
Yeah, no, I mean, because like I feel it all goes back to me too, because I really was not much into the online stuff until my friend Zeke played Survivor, so I didn't really like know much of like the online stuff about Survivor. And I remember hearing that it was gonna be a returning season. I didn't vote or anything. But I remember getting through Worlds Apart, right? That's what it. Well, the crappy season 30, and liking Mike Holloway. Pretty much that's it. And I have rewatched season 30, and that's pretty much my truth for like the last half of that series. But with me with this season, I remember watching the finale and seeing like who's going to be the cast. I remember being so excited that the people that I loved from recent seasons, like Jeremy and Spencer and Tasha and Keith, were returning. And like, I was immediately invested into the season. And there's so many people to root for. I think like even back then, 2014, the only people I was not really rooting for was like, I can't think of anyone, honestly. Probably Monica, because I don't think at that point I watched Samoa. But like, because everyone else I was at least familiar with, you know.
Well, and the problem is, and this is one of the problems that the season does run into, is the fact that pre-merge there are a lot of people that are purple or invisible, including our new version of Purple Kelly Wigglesworth 2.0. And so Monica really doesn't get much content until her boot episode. Same thing with Kimmy Kappenberg. Doesn't really get much content until Monica's on her way out.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, when you have a cast of 20, that's probably going to happen more often than not. Apparently,
you have amazing professionals like Keith Nail, who's like the funniest player. Like, I love Keith Nail. I will always love Keith Nail. I really hope we never find out anything terrible about Keith Nail. Just like that's the thing that makes me happy that Keith Nail is like the beautiful, fucking crazy guy that ever watched Survivor until playing it, and then like became the best thing ever. But like Jeremy Collins is hands down, like the more I watch this season, the more I think Jeremy Collins is my favorite winner.
That's okay. And Jeremy Collins is up there for me. Like, he's probably like top 5 or whatever. And
my Mount Rushmore, he's been on it. Like, it's been like, because I think I told you before my Mount Rushmore, slightly controversial. Natalie Anderson, Parvati, Jeremy, and Wendell. I'm a very big fan of Wendell. I will never apologize about Wendell's winning season. I like Ghost Island. Sorry. But
it sucks to suck. I'm just fine.
You know what? I own the song.
Go ahead and talk about Jeremy.
But I think Jeremy Collins is just like one of those likable, rootable players in Survivor history. Like, the more I think about it, and like the way he is also like interacting with fans too, also like in the modern sense, fantastic. He makes me happy. Like, he's just a good dude. Like,
no, I agree. And in his first season, I would say that based off of what happened in San Juan del Sur, you kind of understood why he left at that point. And in this season, it kind of felt like he came in with a different strategy, and he wasn't playing with a bunch of jamokes that were just trying to target super fans of the show. We now have Molly, who has joined us. Molly, I hope you're doing all right. I just read your message. So I hope you're doing all right. Talking about Jeremy right now, but I'm going to get your opinions on the actual season in a second. I think in this season, his whole shield strategy, he's the first person to give a name to that strategy, but there's been a lot of people that have utilized that. I mean, you can go all the way back to Tina in Australia using Colby as a shield because no one was ever worried about her. But I do think that Jeremy, another reason is because he is fallible. The round that Kimmy tries to flip on him, he is very gung-ho about the fact that she's not coming after me. I can't buy that this is going on. And fallible is probably a strong word in that situation, but he's shown as not being in full control of everything going on. He's even on the wrong side of a few votes. And I think that's what has always been compelling to me, is the fact that he can still do that and still pull in all of the votes at the end. We're gonna work our way back for a second. Molly, what was your first opinion on this season, and has your opinion of the season changed throughout the years?
Oh, I loved it immediately. Like, my first impression was that I loved it. I think it's a great winner. I think it's a great cast overall. I think the gameplay was strong, and it's remained one of my favorite seasons throughout the years for sure.
And what do you think about Jeremy as a winner?
I love him. I think he's the full package, truly. I do think that Spencer played a great game as well, but all in all, I do think Jeremy was the deserving winner. And he's likable, he's social, he was strategic, he just had everything.
He finally won the immunity.
Winner.
At the end, he finally won the immunity that
it mattered. Yeah.
Yeah, and like in San Juan del Sur, everyone's clocking him as a physical threat out of all things, and it's like, well, he's not, because his track record, he's definitely not the physical threat that he looks like. And then in the season, he wins at Final Four, and it's when he needed it. I want to go to this first comment. I like Cambodia, however, T-Bird was robbed. Okay, so everyone knows that my thought on Survivor is you can't be robbed in certain situations. Mainly, Cerie's the only robbed player ever in Game Changers. Having said that, there were a few people that were on the ballot to make second chances that I believe were robbed for reasons I will never know, because if you're trying to tell me that Monica and Kimmy Kappenberg made it over T-Bird, who for like the 1,000th time that I said on this series, admitted to getting her cheeks clapped on a plane years ago, and you chose them over her, there is an issue. And even things like not having Shane or others, I do feel like I can admit robberies there, because I do think that Survivor fans are frustrating. Let's go with that. I won't say that I hate them, but Survivor fans are frustrating.
I mean, I pulled up the list of the people that were not cast, and honestly, yeah, it's just, I think we got the best version of what we could have gotten. And obviously, T-Bird, I love T-Bird, and Shane's great TV too. But Mike Holloway would have been great, but he was not allowed to because he won. But I don't know. I think this is
yeah, because the other people on there, it's like Michaela from South Pacific, Jim Rice from South Pacific, Brad Culpepper. It was a lot of folks that I think we got what we needed, and there are only a few exceptions to that. Okay, you guys give us Monica, but fine, whatever. We only get one episode of content out of Monica. I do want to ask you, did you guys were y'all watching live as the season aired? And the other part of that is, did y'all vote for this season?
I did not vote, but I did watch live.
I'm the opposite. I voted, but I didn't watch live.
So were there any people that you voted for that didn't make it? If you remember.
Just T-Bird.
Oh, just T-Bird? Did you also vote for Monica?
No.
No, okay. And the obviously the other person, I mentioned her already, that shows up this season that honestly, on a rewatch, had some good ideas of what was going on, and also came off very hypocritical, whatever, in another situation was Kimmy Kappenberg. Because watching it the way that I have been watching it, it's been 29, 30 days since the last time I saw Kimmy, and she was just some random pre-merger that got into a fight with Alicia that didn't eat meat. And having her back this time, it's like, okay, well, that's weird. But she's able, the Monica episode, she's trying to pull this move to get rid of Monica because she doesn't trust her because Monica wants to do an all-women's alliance. And then do an all-women's alliance as the season progresses, like towards the final 7, I believe. She tries to do an all-women's alliance at that point. And then she tries to make a big move, which we're going to talk about, big moves, on Jeremy at final 6 that ultimately doesn't work, and Keith sends her to the house. But I think that in the moment, Kimmy saw what was going on-ish. I do think that Jeremy wanted to take her and Tasha to the end and decided that she was going to flip the game on its head. So what do we think about Kimmy Kappenberg 2.0? Molly, we'll start with you.
I think I enjoyed her more the second time around for sure. And that's not really saying much because I didn't really like her in Australia, but she definitely had some more moments that I appreciated and enjoyed the second time around. Maybe that was just her maturing as a human overall, just her game maturing. But I don't know. I thought she was funny at some times too. Like I definitely enjoyed her the second time more.
Mark?
Yeah. So like when this season aired, I think my history, like how I stopped watching Survivor during Africa. I remembered Kimmy vaguely, and like I like that this season exists so people like her can have a second chance. I'm not mentioning that person from that season because I fucking hate him. But like the fact that you're like able to possibly see these people that like you might have forgotten about, and I think Kimmy actually adds a lot to this season. And I think that like I think she's on the category of like I'm happy that they got cast in this season.
It's very Jenna Lewis-esque from All Stars, where it's like, I wasn't really begging for Jenna Lewis to come back, but like she did well her second time, and Kimmy did well her second time. It's just more of a, I still would have rather not, but like for what we were given from her, I enjoyed it. Like it was fine, and the way she went out is an all-time moment. That tribal council is looked at as an all-time tribal council. So, I won't take anything away from it. It's just more of a give me a T-Bird. The comment, not sure why so many like this season, love the cast, but didn't do it for me. And I understand that. And I would say that my biggest qualm with the season is, one, there are a lot of purple characters in the season. Like, unless it's their boot episode or they are very important to a certain plot of the season, there are a lot of people that use, even the Kelly Wigglesworth episode, she doesn't get much content. And Kelly is supposed to be, the OG of the season. And that's a problem that a lot of 20 people casts run into, of they can't commit a lot of time to everyone. So do y'all feel, besides Kelly, and you can talk about Kelly too, are there a lot of people this season that you felt like should have been given more content that weren't, or do you feel like it was split the way it needed to be for the narrative that is told to us?
Okay, like because like they're building towards Spencer or Jeremy's gonna win. Like that's the vibe the whole season, and I think I obviously am sad. I feel like PG are barely there, and Monica are barely, like Sierra, who's someone I think played better this time than she did her first time. But like it's that thing of like I hate to say this because I'm actually a big fan of Jeremy and a big fan of Spencer on the show. Not in real life, but on the show. So it's a thing of like I like what was sacrificed for what we get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I think. Yeah, I mean, of course there were more bigger characters that were given more screen time, like obviously Spencer, Jeremy, Keith, Kimmy, but I still feel like generally it was decently even. Obviously, there were people in the beginning that didn't get a lot because they were early boots. But yeah, Mark put it very we were what was it? It was like we were given something, we got they did well with what we got or something.
Like they did both, like it's telling the story of like Jeremy or Spencer, maybe Kelly's that
I'm like,
and like Keith is there for color commentary, basically.
Right.
Well, and we're at the part of the reunion right now where Probst is simping over Joe. Joe gets a lot of content this season that, like, it's not like Joe is some master confessionalist. I understand he's winning all the challenges, and that's fine. But I've never felt Joe as, like, a compelling character. Like, he's a compelling challenge threat because he is the challenge threat of the season. But as far as, like, him strategizing and everything, it's like, no, I'm so good on Joe to the point where, like, I forgot that he actually does survive a round. You know, he loses immunity and doesn't get voted out that round. That's the fishback round. And I'm like, wow, in my head, Joe just always gets eliminated the first round that he loses immunity because he has no social or strategic game. Even though at the beginning of this season, he's like, yeah, I want to be more social this time, which is what Spencer says too. And once again, doesn't work out for him. Joey Amazing 2.0. Hold on, Mark. Joey Amazing 2.0. Go, and then you can ask your question or say what you're going to say.
Oh, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, Joe is like if Ozzy never learned after Cook Islands.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I remember, like, one of my biggest memories of Joe is, like, his boot episode in Edge of Extinction. Like, he's just, like, painting the flag for the whole episode. And he's like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. It's like, come on, dude. Like, you're supposed to, like, an icon. People, like, love you. You're good looking dude, like, long hair. Like you're supposed to, like, the fun Malcolm, fun Ozzy archetype. It's your third time. You're just, like, busy, like, just caring about only the challenges, not, like, playing the game the other ways. Like, I don't know. I mean, Joe for me is the most boring version of the Ozzy knockoffs.
Molly?
Yeah, I'm not a Joe fan. I don't know.
Yeah, inside or outside the show, I'm not a Joe fan. But like,
yeah, inside or outside the show, I think he's just. I think he's a boring player. He's a good player. He's good at challenges. That's all he's good at. I just don't see any, like, redeeming qualities in his social or strategic game. Like, and I don't know. I just don't like him. I don't get good vibes. And obviously, outside of the show,
Abby Maria didn't get good vibes. Abby Maria, you know, as crazy as she comes off as, clocks Joe, and she clocks someone else. Oh, Spencer. She was like, I don't trust Joe or Spencer.
Yeah.
They just get
the most problematic people on the season.
Yeah. And then she didn't trust Scoop in the Philippines. Like, Abby Maria and my sister's there.
That's it. She's in tune.
This was such a success. Surprise Survivor again. And I know that, like, whenever people do their Brant Steels or anything like that, they always bring up either second chances or maybe a Heroes versus Villains 2. I think the more compelling thing would be a Second Chances 2. Like, of all the themes that the show has used, Second Chances 2 would... Because at this point, the fans are so vocal now that you're only going to get... Like, don't even have a ballot. Just let the fans vote.
Yeah.
Obviously, my fear is that they'll just vote for Russell Hantz for some reason, who's a piece of shit, and I hope they don't do that. But I think the Second Chances theme would be my vote for what they should do next. Do you guys agree, or do you feel like you can only run into issues now? Do you feel like this, like it's played out its course, or do you think that given a second chance, Second Chances could produce what it produced the first time? Molly, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think it definitely has potential to be another good season of Second Chances. I think there's so many players that have played only once and that deserve another chance. Like, so many. New era, old era, all of the players. There's so many players that I want to see come back that have only played once. And I think it would be a popular theme and it would be well received. And there's a lot of players that I think the fans would vote on, whether they're on a ballot or whether we just submit their names, whatever. I think it would go over very well.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Like, in my mind, I don't think 49 is going to be a new player season. I think it's going to be a returning player season. Like, I've thought that since, like, they announced 50. And I'm like, it makes sense if 49's, like, not necessarily only new era, but mostly new era, but, like, also, like, late 30s. You know, like, people like Devins and Christian. Dom, people like back there that you want to see back, that we want to see back for years now. Like I feel like I could totally see like 49 being second chances for like that era onward. Of like those people that are like, oh my god, I need to see like I need to see Caleb play again or whatever. And then like 50 is like whatever crazy version they're going to do, like 50 players, 100 days, challenge 40, whatever, you know. But I think we need another second chance this season because there's a lot of great players that like, and I do like the fact that a lot of these players were like either like late pre-merge, like Andrew Savage or whatever. Like they got a chance to like show themselves like differently. Like even though he technically came in second, Spencer's playing a very different game than he did in Cagayan.
Guess he has feelings now and he cries. I'm not really a Spencer person, and this time, like, I prefer Spencer 1.0 because Spencer 2.0 almost comes off as fake with a lot of the. Like he has a confessional early on in the season where he like cries. Like it was when him and Shireen got clocked as like overly strategic, and he was like, "I'm on the bottom again," and he like cries in the confession. I'm like, I don't buy this at all. I don't think this man could have been. For all I know, he could have been. But everything that he said and did when it came to emotions, it just came off as like when he's sitting there with Jeremy and and he's like, "Oh, I haven't told my girlfriend," and he's like, "You still haven't?" Like that's weird, man. Like you should have get off the pot. Like
out there in Cambodia for him.
So I feel like Spencer 1.0, at least in that situation, I felt like he had the right connections with the right people. Now, yeah, he overly antagonized Cass during the merge tribal for some reason. He kept on calling Cass a goat for some reason, even though he claims to be, a big fan of the game. It didn't make sense that he was saying that Cass was like brain dead when all of the moves that Cass made in that season were pretty smart. And so you come here and it's like, oh, I'm trying to have feelings this time. It's like, you understand how sociopathic that sounds? That you're a grown-ass man and you're like, I'm trying to have feelings now? And I know that someone in the comments mentioned, I wish that Tasha and Spencer had gotten more respect for the games. And I do agree. And I feel like if they were sitting next to maybe Keith, that happens. If they sit next to Wentworth or Jeremy, they're probably going to lose 100% of the time. And so, the comment, a lot of purple and one person running the entire show, I don't see it that way. And maybe y'all disagree and we'll get y'all's thoughts. I never saw Jeremy as like fully in control this entire season until maybe Final 7 or Final 6. Do we think that Jeremy just steamrolled his way to the win, or do we feel like he had to actually overcome things to get there?
I don't think it was an easy road at all for anyone to get to the end. This was like there were like I'd say like probably like 6 or 7 figurehead people in the season, like because like I'm definitely gonna throw Savage in there, Jeremy. I would throw Spencer in there. I'd throw Kelly Wentworth in there. Who else would I say is like pretty big like character in that regard? Fishback is definitely like Fishback. We haven't even talked about like I feel like there had to be like people that watched this season and up until like Fishback towards the end of his time being like, oh, Fishback's winning. I didn't think that while watching, but like watching this, I'm like, oh, okay. I could see like Fishback getting a slight winners at it.
Molly?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it was like a cut and dry Jeremy steamrolling over everybody, winning automatically. I think he did have a fight to get there. I think they all did. I think there were many people that could have stood a chance had they had the chance in the end. Like, yeah, there were definitely some front runners. Jeremy Wentworth, even Spencer, I thought was playing a very good game. Just the fact that he was sitting next to Jeremy probably hurt his chances. But yeah, no, I don't think it was just like he's running the show.
He's running the show, yeah. Because he all the way up until I think from 7 till the end, Jeremy's on the right side of the numbers. I might be mistaken. It might be 6, but Jeremy, he has. I know people care about voting records. I don't, but Jeremy doesn't have a perfect voting record. Because I know you brought up Fishback, and I talked about Token Jeans however many days ago. Fishback's storyline this season aggravates me because from what we're being shown, he's talking about how he lost to the Golden Boy and he doesn't want to lose to the Golden Boy again. Watching Token Chains back this time, I don't think it was the fact that JT was the Golden Boy. I think it was the fact that the jury had very Southern values and valued, this great white hope, as we'll call him, and they didn't like the schemer. They didn't like Steven in that situation. And I understood that because of what we were given in that season. Here, I don't think that Joe just beats Steven at the end. I actually think that Steven probably beats Joe at the end. And so the fact that this becomes his entire story arc this season of, I've got to get rid of Joe. I've got to get rid of Joe. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have to get rid of Joe. And he doesn't even end up getting rid of Joe. He still goes out before Joe. And I felt horrible for him because I like Fishback his first season. And I felt like Fishback has done, in his one appearance, has done better than JT in 2 seasons after Token Chains. And the fact that at this point, Steven has a pretty successful podcast and isn't any of the first boots. He makes the merge and makes it pretty far when people look at him as a know-it-all, and he still makes it pretty far. And Jeremy wants to work with him to the end. What do we think of Steven's story arc this season? Because I was just frustrated with it. Molly, we'll go with you.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in his arc, I guess you would say. I was kind of hoping that he would maybe see the light, I guess, a little bit and kind of play more without his previous thoughts. I feel like he let the whole, I lost to JT, whatever, influence his thoughts on this game. And I wished he would just have put that behind him and kind of focused more on the game at hand. You lost, get over it, focus on what's in front of you right now, fix your mistakes, but don't dwell on them.
Yeah. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, Steven's a fascinating character this season. Because I do feel like he has the winnery edit for the first third of the season, but that falls apart with 2 major things. 1, hitting the wrong target, and 2, what I like to call rain day poetry. They literally you see everyone huddled in the tent, in the camp, freezing, and he's like, I'm gonna read a poem. I'm gonna recite a poem to you, and you're just, and they I think he recited the whole poem or whatever, but I'm just why is this happening?
And it's so funny because watching it this time, in my head, Andrew Savage actually did it because Andrew Savage comes off as very pretentious this season. So when Steven starts doing the poem, I'm like, oh no, it was Steven.
It's such a great moment. In my mind, that's the worst thing ever. Because it's day 3 of rain nonstop, and he's like, well, I'm gonna say a poem now. And you're like, why? I want to not think dry thoughts, and you're making me want to punch you.
Yeah, Steven, shut the fuck up. I do agree. I feel like if Steven had more focused on the game in front of him and not worried about what happened in Token Chains, because to a lot of people's credits this season, yeah, they're trying to fix their mistakes, but they're not dwelling so much on their previous, at least from what we're shown. They're not dwelling so much on their previous seasons that it gets in the way of what is actually in front of them. But Steven's story arc, what is being presented to us, is definitely Token Chains happened. I need to make sure that Token Chains doesn't happen again. Except for in this time, JT is, likable and has a jury that appreciates that kind of stuff. And in this season, because it's an all-star season, people don't care about challenge wins. Challenge wins do not matter. They don't matter. Unless you are Mike Holloway in Worlds Apart, which I talked about yesterday, and I really appreciate his win. Unless you're that, it does not matter, and you would probably have it. Because if he goes to the end with Jeremy and Tasha, or Jeremy and Kimmy, or whatever, Jeremy still wins in that situation. So then you have to worry about, now I lost to the strategic threat or the there's no. every game is different. That's all I'm trying to say. Question. Where is it? Okay, question. I think Spencer did that to Jeremy because Spencer didn't know that Jeremy was considering fighting, and it caught Spencer off guard. Is that true? And how would you all or should Spencer have handled that? Handled what? What are we talking about?
Confused. Okay, good. I thought I was the only one that was lost.
The final 6 vote?
Yeah, Thomas, leave another comment because I actually don't know where you were going with that question when you sent it. But Mark, go ahead.
I just saw like a very funny comment that Darren Hawkins posted about, was Savage the one who told Joe that his daughters thought Joe was perfect?
Yes.
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 Oh my God,
it was.
It's so awkward. It's so awkward. I love it.
Yeah, we're coming off of Worlds Apart where everyone is hateable, and Joe is one of the shining lights of the season because he's the new Great White Hope, and he's got the long hair, and he's winning all these challenges. And I could see why Savage's daughters would like him in that situation. And Jeremy Probst calls Joe delicious during the reunion of the show. So like it's
fucking whack. If anyone's delicious on that season, it's Savage and Jeremy.
There is the DILF challenge. They have a DILF challenge where it's Savage, Jeremy, and Terry Dietz. There's the captain they have.
Yes.
So
yeah.
They're all like, way more delicious than Joe.
Mark, what do you say?
So like, I'm trying to count on my hands like the people that the first time playing affected this game so much that they only thought about that. It's like Fishback and Varner are the ones I can think of. Right?
Yeah, and I want to touch on Varner 2.0 for a second. Well, I want to touch on all the old school players because I think that this is another misconception that a lot of the old school players had out there, where it's like, oh man, everything's so much faster now. It's not like back in the day. It's like, I mean, Richard Hatch did this in the first season. He was just playing with a bunch of people that were playing slower. But it's not like the game is like that aspect of the game has not changed. Every season since the beginning, there has been at least one person that has gone out there wheeling and dealing from the very beginning. Now, because there are so many people back in the day that thought that Survivor was about survival and winning challenges, they weren't out there doing that. And so that's why I feel like Varner and Terry and a couple other people have these confessionals where they're talking about if the game's so much faster now. It's like, well, the game has been the same pace the entire time. It's just that y'all understand now what you should have been doing the first time of going out there, Richard sitting in a tree trying to figure out who his alliances are going to be. Chris and Vanuatu having his group, his Fat Five together after they lose the challenge, understanding that it doesn't matter if we lose the challenge or not because I'm already set up. It didn't bother me, but it was weird that perception existed in the season because we know what's going to happen in 9 seasons where the old school winners in that season, a lot of them, not all of them, are saying, oh, the game is so much different now. It's so much faster. It's like, it's really not. Do you guys buy into this, the game is faster mentality that these old school players had this season? You're both shaking your heads. Okay, perfect.
No, I just finished rewatching Blood vs. Water. The way Tina adapts in that season is like perfect. But Tina is like probably the most like go with the flow human being ever. I feel like I've always got that energy from her for like the last 20 plus years. Like she's like a very much like, okay, cool, we're doing this. But like, nah, if sweet little tiny Tina Weston can pick up on it and excel, so can Venus Wichkowski. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm sorry.
Molly?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can kind of see where they're coming from a little bit, but at the same time, like, no, it was still crazy and wild back in the day. Like, I'm just remembering, like, All Stars, like, especially, I feel like there was so much happening so quickly there. Yeah, maybe it's a little more fast-paced, like, in the new era when it's, like, 26 days, but it was still 39 days back in these seasons. Like, I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, and I forgot that there is a whole new school, old school storyline at the beginning of this season, and it leads me to like not look forward to Winners. I mean, I look forward to Winners at War, but like I hate that that's a storyline in Winners at War. They're like, oh yeah, it's old school versus new school. It's like it's not. You're trying to make that to be the theme, but it's not really that. And that kind of gets blown up after episode 1 because we do have a fair few old schoolers make it fairly far in the game, at least make the merge. Talking about some of these pre-merge characters. My favorite scene from the pre-merge period is Spencer and PG talking about fire chimneys, and Abby Maria, what's going on, PG? She's like, what are you talking about? This season, the first time I watched this season is the first time that I actually understood Abby Maria. And every other time I've watched Philippines and Second Chances, I've got it. I understand what Abby Maria is. She's the villain. Yeah, she's the villain that you know is not going to win, that you can kind of have fun with because eventually she's going to catch her comeuppance. But also there are times where it's like, okay, maybe she actually just does not understand how she's saying these things might be perceived a certain way. Abby Maria, you can talk about Abby Maria, you can talk about any of these pre-mergers. Who do you think gave us or Abby Maria wasn't pre-merge, but you know what I'm saying. What were some of your favorite pre-merge moments this season? I guess is where I was going to go with it.
Oh man, the yoga montage in the first episode.
Stop! I was gonna bring up the moment.
It's so funny. It's just like the comparison between Venus being like kind of like, find my word, incredibly creepy, and slightly sexual, being sexual, versus yoga, which is very much honestly just in theory truer yoga. But like also like there's like, I mean, like it's also like I would like shout out like Terry Dietz like for changing his game up to just be like a good dude, and then like obviously unfortunately stuff with this. I think Terry Dietz have done really well this season. Honestly, I think he was doing a good job of adapting. It was also interesting seeing Wu truly being lost because like Wu has like the stonery energy to him, and then like him actually being lost this whole season.
Oh yeah. The yoga really stood out. The Vita's being a weirdo. Like what I think Wentworth, one of my favorite quotes from her about Vetus was, Vetus is trying to be sexy and it's annoying and I don't like it. It's just annoying me. And I'm like, yeah, literally, it's weird. It's hilariously fucking weird, but it's great. The Abby and Maria thinking PG stole her bracelet, hilarious.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
And didn't someone drop a coconut?
Accurate.
Didn't someone like hit Scoopin in the head with a
coconut? And Abby's like, oh, my second chance. They're doing a montage of what their second chance is about. She's like, in my first season, I did this, that, and the other, and I also threw a coconut at Scoopin's head.
And I was like, good job, Abby.
Good job, Abby.
Throw this coconut at his head so hard. So many good moments.
Oh, also the blindfold challenge, which is always a great one. Spencer's
I will always sit on my phone and when I watch that challenge in any season, that challenge makes me so uncomfortable.
Oh, watching Spencer being hit with the balls like by everything somehow.
Just watching them run into those things with sharp edges. They have sharp.
Like a block fell on him at one point. I'm like, Spencer's gonna die.
So there are two challenges in Survivor history that I refuse to watch. And it's that one and the meat one where they have to buy. Everyone has to buy. Yeah, I will sit on my phone and do anything else besides watching those because no. I pre-merge, and I know a lot of seasons kind of run into this issue, and it doesn't. I try my best not to let it bring down a season. For instance, Vanuatu I love, even though the pre-merge is not the best. This season, I feel like it was like a lot of one episode arc episodes, if that makes sense. Like a lot of the story arcs that happen in each individual episode really didn't carry over much, and I was fine with that. And then as you start to get, as you get to the swap, that's when these, the fact that Tasha and Savage get swapped in the minority And Savage is so hurt by this. And I think this is a testament to how he didn't really understand the fact that he just thought he was automatically screwed, and he's outwardly saying, "Oh, I'm screwed." It's like, that doesn't have to be the case. You understand that, right? Like, and especially if you're going to a tribe that has Abby Maria in it, you never know. And it worked out for him, and until it didn't at the merge. This is the first season that we get 2 swaps, and that is something that in my head brings it down, because I do think that 2 swaps is a lot. And I know they do it in Game Changers, which really sucks the air out of that season, especially when Sandra leaves. This is the era where Survivor starts to try to. They don't want because fans became so good at guessing what's going to happen. They tried their best to fool everyone, and I feel like it became a detriment as the seasons progressed. Now, that's the best part here. Let's just call it the big moves era. Do you like it? Do we not just including this season among the seasons that we're going to get to? Do we like this era of Survivor, or do we feel like Survivor got too big brained for their own good? Molly, we'll start with you.
I do like it. I have mixed feelings, I guess. Like, I do like it. I do like big moves, but I feel like sometimes people feel like they have to make big moves just for the sake of making big moves. Sometimes it might not make sense. When it does make sense, it's great. But when it's just like, why are you doing that? Like, this is just for show. Like, this doesn't make sense yet. Don't do it yet. I'm like, I don't know. I think it works the majority of the time, but sometimes I'm like, tone it down a little bit.
Mark?
I'm not anti it, honestly. Like, this is like not counting season 30. I feel like the stretch from 27 to 33 is probably the best stretch in Survivor history for me. So I'm okay with the casting and like the gameplay and the way that interesting things are done. Like the fact that people like we haven't even talked about like how people had to like find immunity idols like this season in the first few. Like Jeremy literally like had like Jeremy grabbing his idol. I watched that like 4 times because it literally is if one person turns their head 1 second quicker, they all see his idol. And like he literally just runs ahead and grabs an idol like from the challenge. So like I don't know. I like when the game gets big brain if it's in a good way. I think that there are more issues in the later 30s involving stuff like this. But I don't know. It doesn't hurt me. I understand like a second swap can deplete the season, but like stuff like this, like it's interesting because like the first swap and like the first tribe, especially in danger the whole time, and he's like finally finds his people with the second swap, stuff like that. Like like if I want to see people get hope, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I want to go off this comment. Big move era is overrated. They try too hard to make a big move, mostly to the big movers' demise. I agree. I think that, and I tweeted about this earlier, I feel like the biggest inaccurate perception of this game is you have to make big moves to win. When in reality, off the top of my head, 31 seasons on right now, the only person that made all the big moves in the season that won the game, I think, was Tony. And so the fact that everyone, and I know Molly comes from the OR community, Mark, you come from the LRG community, and the fact that there's this perception that you have to make big moves and you have to have this resume in order for you to win has been proven time and time again to not be the case. Every person that goes on the show preaching that they have to do this ends up losing the game. Everyone that goes out there and tries to make all these big brain moves ends up losing the game. Everyone in this season that was trying to do this whole voting block thing ended up losing. And you know who won? The person that was like, hey, let's just stick to what we have here. Let's just stick with our crew and just let everyone else do everything that they want. And it's so frustrating to me that this is the era that I am getting into now. And like I love a lot of these seasons, don't get me wrong. But I've always historically blamed Will Wall for this, when in reality, it's actually Tasha that's the first one that ever says resume, which bothers me because I love Tasha, so I can't blame her for it. I will still blame Will Wall for it. But the fact that, we're now in the era where people are like, I got to have it on my resume and I got to do this and I got to do that. You're forgetting what this game is really about. And what this game is really about is just getting to the end and proving that you deserve to win. It's not about big moves. It's not about being the one that makes the most big moves, I should say. And Sierra is another person that, she's preaching it this season. And I understand why she's preaching it this season, because she's on the bottom. She has to say, hey, you guys need to pull something out. And you need to make a big move. And then they do, and then eventually they do get rid of her because they need to get rid of her. Why do we think this, out of everything that has happened on this show, why do you think that so many fans have, I feel like they're starting to die off, thank God. Why do you feel like so many fans have latched themselves onto this big moves win the game ideal, I guess? And I want both of y'all's opinions because I feel like y'all might have differing opinions. I don't know. I didn't know that was going to be the loaded question of the night. But
it's the thing of
hard to put into words.
Because sometimes the big move does backfire. Spencer in Final Four was don't vote me out or I'm going to ruin your game. And that backfired for Spencer. Shit like that. That's a big fucking move. Being if you take me out, I'm going to ruin your game. And people I don't know. People the thing that the thing why I do these games is to meet people, to make a real genuine human connection, And if you make a big move, you're not to make a connection. It's about how can I pitch this at the end. You really shouldn't be thinking about Final Tribal Council until you know you're going there.
Molly?
Yeah, wait, what was the question? How was that phrased?
Why do you think so many fans have latched on to this ideal that resumes and big moves are the only way you win the game?
I mean, I feel like a lot of the more popular players of a lot of eras have been big flashy players and have been very out there with their gameplay. I know you mentioned him earlier, Tony. He was explicitly dominant, just overall a very loud, flashy, big movie kind of guy, and wasn't afraid to literally say whatever the fuck was on his mind, whether it was in English or in Llama. But yeah, I feel like a lot of players that are fan favorites, like Boston Rob, I'll even say Russell, a lot of people do like Russell, and he was out there with his moves and whatnot. People just big characters like Jerry, Wentworth, just people gravitate more towards flashy players that maybe make big moves. Is that always the best player? Probably not, but it's players that people gravitate towards in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and for me, some of them are more compelling than others. I've never liked Russell Hands. I think he's
either.
I understood why people. I guess I understood why people latched on from the first time. Tasha was the one that came up with the idea. I'm sorry to say. Will Wall, he was. I thought so too. It wasn't him. Blindside, and blindsides are fun. Blindsides are a lot of fun, as Kat might say. But I want to bring up the one big moment from the season. Among a lot of big moments, but the one that is in memes and gifs everywhere, the Wentworth Tribal. For me, it is better than the Parvati double idol play. I feel like I get more an adrenaline rush watching it. I was looking forward to 2-3 o'clock today when I would get to that episode. And it has withstood the test of time. It's just this is such good shit. And we don't really have to go deep into it because we all know what happens. It's just every time I watch it, it's like this is so great, and it's the perfect person to lead because I feel like Andrew Savage is by default the villain of the season because of he's almost like Coach except where he's not a character, where he has these his Fishback's a liar and this, that, and the other, and I can't play with people like that. It's like, you know what this is? And so, Savage leaves. Abby says, you made it to the jury. We get all of that. I love Wentworth doesn't count, does not count, will not count. And I think that for that reason, among this cast, the challenges, the way that they hide the idols this season, for me, I'm giving it a 4.75 out of 5. It is right now after 31 seasons going to be my second favorite season at this point. We'll see if that changes with these last however many seasons I have left.
What's one?
Heroes vs. Villains.
Okay, I figured.
He's like Redemption Island.
It's Redemption Island. It's Nicaragua. Final two questions, as always. This is second chances. We do get a couple of people get their third chance from this season. Are there any people from this season that you think could have been brought back, not including 50, that you think could have been brought back at a different point?
I would like to see Keith Neal a third time. Granted, I have such a soft spot for that guy. I think the most fun character to watch over a 2-season arc. I think fantastic. Well, I think anyone else. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I will never say no to more Wentworth on my screen. But I know she did come back again. But I just want her to keep coming back. I love her.
Yeah.
Truly.
Can we talk about the other gift of the season 2? Sorry, I just cut you off. I'm sorry.
No. Oh no! I was literally just trying to think of other people, and I really can't. You said Keith. I was like, yes.
The other famous gift of the season, which is the Spencer Gasm.
Oh my god!
I know for me, I think everyone's story arc I feel like finished here. I feel like Jeremy got a great epilogue in Winners at War. I feel like Wentworth got a great epilogue in Edge of Extinction. Sierra goes out first in Game Changers, which is fine. And then obviously for season 50, is there anyone from this season that you feel like you have to have back?
Okay, this is controversial because I think they're an amazing player. And I'd be very interested to see this version on play. Their ranking is always really good. I want to see Spencer back.
Stop! I was gonna say Spencer.
I obviously online I'm fucking scared of him because a little bit,
Yeah, but I think he's a good fucking player.
He's good at the game. I just I want to see what he took from the season.
I was afraid to say Spencer. I'm glad you said it.
So Molly, you would say Spencer?
I would say Spencer, but let me think. Is there anyone? I think there's got to be someone else too. I don't know. I mean,
maybe Abby Maria for fun.
Yeah, I will never say no to more Abby too. She's so fun. Yeah, no, Spencer definitely was on the top of my he should come back. I feel like there's more in him game wise. I feel like he could do more. I know he's kind of but
honestly for me it'd be Kelly Wentworth. I don't. There are a lot of people that I don't want a 4.0 for. I wouldn't mind a Kelly Wentworth 4.0. And do I think she would win in that situation? Probably not, but who's to say? That's why they play the game. Abby, I would say that if you need villains for 50, Abby is a prime, person to bring back and just be like, hey, Abby just go do crazy shit. And clock who the next problematic people are going to be after the season. Because she's clocked me so far. So overall, I really love this season. Mark and Molly, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know this is one of the more quicker ones, but I do have a lot to get to. I'm almost done with
something. Really
go ahead.
Because it's one of the few times it happens. Nighttime challenge, more please. I love those so
Yes,
much.
Fishback tricking Abby.
Oh my god!
Oh,
seriously.
Sorry, Abby. Sorry, Abby. I and the problem is I could have gone on for like 2 hours talking about the season because I love it that much. So the fact that it's only 55, I am fine with. But Molly and Mark, I don't think either one of you are coming back before 40. So for 46, I'm doing a live stream all day. If either one of you want to hop in at any point throughout that day just to like talk about anything, I'm going to be very bored. So,
Over the first 4 hours, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Banu parts of it, yeah. But thank you both so much. I really do appreciate it. And everyone in chat as well, and everyone that's listening to it afterwards. And we will see you guys on the other side.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.